What is going on, gentlemen? Welcome to this week's episode of the Unbreakable Man podcast. In today's episode, we continue our conversation with David Hall, a dear friend of mine. If you listen to part one, then you know David is a very deep individual. If you haven't listened to part one yet, I would highly recommend going back to part one just to get an idea of the myth, the man, the legend, David Hall. Just an incredible human overall. In this conversation, we dive into relationships and the idea of polyamory and his relationship with his two wives, Danielle and Maria, and they're both incredible humans as well. And it's interesting to hear a perspective coming from a place of love and openness about this subject. I had a lot of questions, you can imagine, and I know you have a lot of questions too. And so dive into the episode because he goes through everything in his relationship status and how he untangles and works through conflicts. And that was definitely one of my questions is, how does this work? So be sure to check out the episode. As always, if you are interested in being around a group of men that can keep you accountable, that can help you unlock your fullest potential, then be sure to check out the Unbreakable Man program. The price at the end of this year, beginning of next year, is going up. So be sure to get locked into the price that it's at right now. It's an incredible program to help you be the man you want to be. 3-day immersive experience that will challenge you mentally, physically, and emotionally. And so if you want to dive into that, check out the description, click the link, and apply. And as always, enjoy this week's episode. Let's go. What is up, beautiful humans? This is Dr. Dave Cahotis. I am on a mission to forge strong, heart-centered, and purpose-driven men. And this podcast is here to help you stop managing your problems and start breaking free of stress, limiting beliefs, and excuses that stop you from executing at your fullest potential, living with passion, and being the man you want to be. So let's go. David.
What's up, man?
Welcome back for round two.
Part two.
If you haven't listened to part one, definitely start there because we went deep into the cosmos. What is this thing called life?
What is this?
What is this?
Beautiful. That's what it is.
Yeah. So we ended actually part one, and I want to kind of go back to, there was a couple questions that I was very curious about. One of which is actually, we talked a lot about condition and being unconditional and kind of the course of direction you took your life into being unconditional and how that's showing up for you. And that's showing up in a couple of ways. And you mentioned you have two partners. Two female partners, and I want to talk about that. And I also want to talk about energy, and I'm sure we'll just naturally get into like masculine femininity and how that shows up for you. So that is such a curious thing, right? Because it's not normal, quote unquote.
Yeah, whatever that means. Yeah,
right. What does that mean?
Definitely not normal.
Not normal.
It's not status quo.
Yeah,
it's like normal has like such a negative connotation of like. Yeah, but it's definitely not a widespread practice.
Yeah, yeah.
So which would lead me right into like there is no blueprint.
Right. So how does that work then, right?
Yeah. We just make it up as we go.
Yeah.
Well, and so but here's what's also fascinating about it. It's the relationship.
Yeah.
So if you are aware of your shit, and I say shit in the sense of like I know a good bit of my bullshit and I'm working on some of it and like so forth and so forth. And, and if you're around partners that are also aware of that same thing, and you guys are in alignment around specific ideas and concepts in the grand scale of things, right? Like we disagree on all kinds of shit, like normal couples do. It's like, I think the kitchen countertop should be black in the new house. It's like, man, but I really like butcher block countertops. It's like, we're going to disagree like anybody else. It's not that like, but we are. And I brought this up a bunch of times where it's like accepted, supported, and celebrated.
Yeah.
And so if you can find yourself in all aspects of your partner's expressions, that ultimately the goal is that the initial response is acceptance, support, and celebration. That's not always going to be the case.
And that's in the partnership.
Yeah, between all three of us, because you also got to think that like there's a relationship between the three of us. And then there's a relationship between me and Maria. And then there's a relationship between me and Danielle. And then there's a relationship between Maria and Danielle.
Yeah.
And Danielle and Maria's relationship isn't romantic. But when the three of us are together, it's like we're romantic, but they're not romantic. But we share that same energetic space in a loving awareness kind of way.
Yeah.
In that sacred, because we do have that deep love for each other. There's just not that like physical connection. Because I'm sure most people, that's probably like their initial thing. Like, oh my gosh, they're just like addicted to sex and love threesomes or whatever that thing is. How does
the sex work?
Yeah, like how are you guys like navigating this thing? It's like, well, we have sex just like every other couple.
Yeah.
Probably arguably more often and more passionately, more connected.
Yeah.
Because that space, this is a whole nother rabbit hole, so I'll just touch on it very quickly.
Yeah,
but the sacredness of what that act is so unknown to a lot of people. And if you go down that rabbit hole of doing some of that work, we call it sacred sexuality. Some people call it tantric practices.
Yeah.
There's a lot of overlap between those things. But when you understand that energetic space and what two humans can come together and manifest through that intentional practice, we would treat it a lot different, different. Because you want to talk about, we've been talking about low vibrations and high vibrations and so forth and so forth. If you're going into a sacred space, a sexual act with somebody based in transaction and fear and filling holes and voids and so forth and so forth, you two together are manifesting and calling in those vibrations.
Yeah.
It's one of the sources of creation.
Yeah, well, it is a source of creation. I mean, that's what creates physical life.
Physical life, physical bodies for sure. Yeah. But even in the universe, it's in an expansion, contraction, growth, which expansion and contraction is nothing but in and out, the contraction and tension of energies to transfer and move and call upon other things for creation.
Yeah.
That's what two humans are doing when they come together in that space. It's far greater than reproduction. At an energetic level. And it's a space where two people can come in to experience themselves and their love by, with, and through another human, but also becoming one in the same space. So it is the closest you can get of attaining a feeling, if you will, where there's no separateness. You become one thing. It's like souls merge, energies merge, everything becomes one thing. There is no self at that.
Yeah.
It's just one thing, which is love. And it's the space where you end up in the true gap, the void, the space of creation where nothing exists.
Is there a practice that you...
Oh, yeah. We have a whole...
Physically, like a ritual.
Yeah, we have rape is a very beautiful medicine that we sit with quite often.
Okay.
And every night when we sit in rape, and I'm sure we all have similar intentions, and we've talked about these things a lot, but a lot of it is to clear out the day that we may have carried. And we try to set up practices. We have bookends. We call them bookends. We start our days a certain way, and we end our days a certain way.
Yeah.
And this is just to make sure we keep the energy clear.
Yeah.
And we keep the space safe for all of us to be able to talk about and explore and be whatever we need to be. So we sit in rape, we clear out the day, and then we sort of set up the intention that we don't want to carry any egocentric, any transactional, any types of energies that are going in that like another person would have to deal with.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like we want to go in as an empty vessel, and we want to go with the intention of like, we want to bring in the highest vibration of connection and love and the sacredness of what this space is. And we want to manifest more of that in our lives.
Yeah.
And so if you're going into like, easy example is like, did I just had a shitty day at work and I would just really love to just get like a great lay?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, you're in avoidance and escape of something, and you're now using this sacred act for an emotion and for a feeling.
So using it no different than you would use television or food or porn or whatever. Yeah.
And so that's where like intention is very, very important in anything you do.
Yeah.
Because the process and the outcome, on the surface level will all look the same.
Yeah.
But the intention behind it will actually change the energetic signature that it'll carry out through the universe. And its energetic signature
Yeah.
in the long term.
Yeah.
In the existence and the experience.
So what intentions will you set?
For us, a lot of it is like, we do use it for, in that space, there is the woman's womb is the portal that brings in the physical body that allows the soul to encapsulate the body and brings that portal in. The man's phallus is essentially the key to that portal that opens and unlocks some of these mysteries into the universe. And so if we are carrying some weight, we speak them, we talk about them, we figure out what they are. And then those energies that are accumulated within either one of us, we then enter into that act with the intention that we want to transmute and move that energy through her womb and back into the cosmos, back into the cosmic will. It's perfect by design. Yeah, and so that space is, this is one of the things that I've been working through lately too, where like we create hierarchy on moments.
Yeah.
And so the moment you create hierarchy on moments, you'll strive and look forward to the next big thing, because that big thing is bigger than the act of brewing your own cup of coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
When in reality, they're both as sacred acts.
And you can bring that sacredness.
And you can bring that sacredness into everything.
Yeah.
And so when you start working in that sacred sexuality space and that intentionality in everything, in the sight, in the smell, in the words, in the touch, in what you're calling in, you'll realize that that same act is in everything.
Yeah.
Before I drink my coffee in the morning, I like make these like habits now where I smell my coffee and I just sit there and smell it with my eyes closed. And I really sit with that experience, because I've had so many, the most profound lessons I've ever had in medicine is the impossibility of a moment. That's what I call it.
Yeah.
Every fucking moment that's doing this right now is fucking impossible.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
When you see how much has to happen in order for you to have that sip of coffee, it's fucking impossible, man. And when I saw that, and you can see.
Yeah. Beautiful.
That changed my life. And so when you start to enter in those spaces with that same, all of this is so fucking impossible and it's so goddamn beautiful. And we miss, the fucking wind blowing on your face outside.
Yeah.
You miss the profoundness of that little thing because your eye is on the movie date you have with your wife on Friday, which is a beautiful thing. I'm not saying, and it's necessary. And it's and we do all have those moments. This is human nature where I'm like, fuck, man, I remember that fucking weekend, wherever. We all have them. But to try to get to a place where everything is as sacred as the other thing. The birth of your child is no different than you watching a sunset with your best friend on a fucking beach after a deployment.
That's like the movie Soul, right?
Exactly.
The protagonist,
she's collecting all those things and shit.
She's like, it's like the pizza, it's the gust of wind, it's the beingness.
It's exactly that.
Yeah. And that's incredible. So you're bringing this true consciousness into that space. And I think that's incredible. In fact, whether you're monogamous, polyamorous, doesn't matter. To be able to bring that consciousness, I think is so vital into a space, and even in a cup of coffee, right? Is to bring that sacredness. You're mentioning the word sacred a lot. And I love that word because I feel that word. I understand what that means. But talk to me about what that word means for you and how does that show up?
For me, it's as simple as seeing God in everything, in every moment, in every atom, in every piece of matter, in every vibration and frequency that we can't see but we can feel. I mean, it's
like even the things that don't exist yet,
everything that doesn't exist. That all of it is so sacred in the sense that the intelligence and the entanglement, in order for it to exist, the only word that I can find for it is sacred, because it's impossible. It's our brain can't comprehend what the fuck is actually happening. We just get to experience it. And it's just it's unbelievable. And then to understand that oh, I'm that. Yeah. And it is me. Yeah. And it's that fucking piece of carpet string right there. Yeah. And everything that's ever happened and that's gonna happen. Yeah. is it, and so everything becomes sacred, which is then it like almost dilutes the word in a weird way, because then it's like, well, aren't some things more sacred than others? And I would argue that at that point that no, that's where we get into the trap of, it's like one of the sources of suffering. It's like, because you're looking forward to the sacred thing, because nothing else is sacred, or as sacred. You're looking forward to that thing, and then it doesn't quite happen the way you want it to. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, fuck, it wasn't as sacred as I thought it was going to be. And I was really open for this, like, whatever. And that's why, like, for me, I really work towards not having identities around anything. I really try not to have ideas or expectations around the way something's going to be. Because when you start to let go of that, everything is exciting. Everything is a fucking surprise. It's like, well, I was expecting this, and then it's like, you're kind of surprised that it like didn't turn out a certain way, which is like this level of disappointment. And it's like, but if I just didn't even think about the concept of how any of this was going to be, anything that happens is fucking gangster, man. It's just like, holy shit, like I can't believe that just happened the way it did.
And when you're in that space, and I've been there too, like where you recognize like everything is absolutely sacred, like that piece of lint on the ground is literally like, it's, and I know what you're saying, like, is it going to dilute it if I don't have, or if I think like, oh, this piece of lint has to be less than the $1 million or the wife or the whatever. Well, if you think that way, then you're out of, it's like you are creating hierarchy. Now you're creating separation. Now you're creating the not is, right?
Well, and you're creating what's like something that's better or worse. And it's like, because I think we can all argue like sex is fucking really good. Right? And it's like, it's really good in its own way. It's an intensity of a vibration that's turned to a specific thing that's its own frequency and experience. No different than that cup of coffee. And it's okay to have preferences. It's like, I mean, if you ask me to choose a cup of coffee over like being with my two loves, I'm probably going to drink that coffee all day. So I had to get a reaction. But no, I mean, obviously I'm going to like, of course, dude, I want to be like ravaged by these two beautiful, but I mean, they're amazingly beautiful. So like, I'm blessed in that regard, but not just like physically, like emotionally and spiritually, like these two are their own unique, special, individual, whatever the fucks. And I can't figure out how these two love my dumbass, because I'm a fucking idiot.
Man bun. So, well, that begs a question, actually. I'm sure people are curious, and I know I'm curious, which is like, well, what if somebody doesn't feel like it one night? You know, is there ever jealousy? Is there ever like, you know, the human condition? Is that ever brought forward?
Yeah, of course. I mean, but the thing is like, if those things didn't exist, I don't think we'd have a healthy relationship. And I don't think that we fall in the category of jealousy. I think it's more envy. I think it's more like, fuck, man.
Define that for me.
So envy is more like, oh shit, I wish I had that. But I don't want them to not have it. Jealousy is like, oh, I want that and I don't want them to have it. That's jealousy.
Because I can't have it.
Yeah, because I can't have it. It's like, so nobody's gonna have it. Envy is just like, fuck, man, I'm so fucking happy for her, but goddamn, I really want that right now. That's the hardest part of this relationship, is that I have to leave one to be with the other. And that's something I can't escape. It's inescapable. It's just a part of it. And that's been something that we've really had to work towards. And there's been a lot of grieving of like what was or what we thought was going to happen. Because you got to think, me and Danielle have been married 21 years. She had an idea, and I started to release a lot of these ideas a long time ago. And I thought I made an assumption that like, oh, okay, we're like on the same whatever. But she had an idea that like retirement was going to look a certain way, and this is how our life was going to be, and da-da-da-da. And then Maria had an idea of what a sacred union was going to look like. It's just going to be me and one other man, and we're going to have our family and the white picket fence, and you know, all the things that like we should all desire, because we all deserve that. And then it's like, fuck, man, I've just fell in love with a dude that's been married 21 years. And now my retirement of where I'm thinking I'm going to bed with the same man every night is now I'm sharing that experience with another woman. And not only that, me and Maria have, like, we're going to start a family together. We're going to have kids together. And so now that's another thing that Danielle was like, shit, now I'm going to be like an auntie to like auntie / stepmom / sister wife / whatever, because we're a tribe. We're a family. You know, like Trinley, my daughter, and Tristan look at Maria like Auntie Maria or Stepmom Maria. They can reach out to her for anything that they reach out for Danielle for. And so we're a family and a tribe in that regard. And so there's a lot of things of like, and this is an important part of the process of anything. Anytime the known is going, like, let yourself grieve.
Yeah.
Feel it.
Yeah.
Because if not, you're going to store that energy. It's going to be stagnant, and no energy dies. It just eventually comes alive in a way that you don't want.
Yeah. Like the dragon in the closet.
Yeah. It's like eventually it's just going to come out and be like, you fucking tried me long enough. And it's just going to be a mess, man. So like allow yourself that grieving process and the sadness and reconciling certain things so you don't create resentment around the very thing that you're looking to create moving forward. But when we went into this relationship, we stuck to the idea of like, we want to move into a space of creation.
Yeah.
And in order to move into a space of creation, which was, how does a relationship of the three of us look like after we've been married 21 years? You guys have 2 kids. One's in college. One's getting ready to graduate high school. We're getting ready to start another family, bring new kids into this, open a retreat center, serve medicine together. There wasn't a lot of like blueprints or people that we could reach out to. So it was like, we're just going to sit down and be in a place of creation. And in order to be in a place to where you want to create something new, you gotta, what you're carrying in your hands, you gotta put down.
Yeah.
You just have to.
You have to let go.
You have to let go of like certain things. And that's been a process over about the past 7 months. I think we worked through a good bit of it around 4 or 5 months. You know, little things come up, creep up, just like they normally do. This is just like any other relationship.
Yeah.
But to be in a place of creation where we get to sit down and be like, okay, how does a week look like that? Well, I mean, we have 2 homes.
Yeah.
Like, where the fuck does Dave go? Where do I sleep?
Yeah.
Like, who am I? Like, how does?
Yeah. Do you stay in the same house, like with one or the other?
Yeah. So I come to Maria's house. What we figured out that works for us is like, I like 2 days, and this was my preference.
Yeah.
Obviously, they would like, every day, but there's only one of me. But I like to have 2 days because I'm getting an eye roll over here. I like 2 days because it allows us time to like sort of like an Instapot. It's like putting a bunch of food in the Instapot and you let it.
Yeah.
We got to let it like sort of cook for a while before you got to like head out.
Yeah.
So we try to do 2 days on. I try to do 2 days on with Maria and 2 days on with Danielle. We'll do that off and on. And then we'll have on the weekends, both of them wanted a weekend day, which makes sense because there's a lot of stuff that happens on the weekends. So, Danielle will get like Friday night and then Maria will get Saturday night.
So there's like negotiations if like
it seems like that. It's kind of funny because like the three of us would be like, all right,
like you get every other week.
No. Like so for big stuff like that, like we always know it's going to be the 3 of us together.
Yeah.
And then during the retreats, it's always the 3 of us together. We're always together.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of time where it is the 3 of us, a lot. And a lot of the times we try to do. I'll have a request where I'm feeling like I want to be with both of my loves at the same time, and I want to be able to like sit down and watch a movie together and play games and stay the night and wake up to both of them in the morning. And so I have that autonomy for that ask. And if they ever want that, they ask that. And if there's a day, they have such a beautiful relationship together because if Tuesday's Maria's day, this is such a weird thing. Like I'm like the piece of property is being passed around or something. But if Tuesday's Maria's day and Danielle reaches out and she's like, fuck man, I'm having a really hard time. I'd really like some support from Dave or the both of you.
Yeah.
Then Maria 100% of the time will be like, dude, of course.
Yeah.
And so we set it up just like energies, right? Like we put the river banks up.
Yep.
Here's in construct what we think will work, which is the masculine.
Yep.
And then we allow the feminine energy to flow in that. And that thing comes and goes. And sometimes we stick to the schedule and sometimes we don't. And that's okay. We don't have any attachment to what we say.
Yeah.
And this is one of the things that I think is important, where it's one of the pitfalls I see in relationships where people will make agreements and then it's like set in fucking stone. It can never be changed.
Yeah.
Never be changed.
Or it could be unconscious.
Yeah.
And you're sort of playing out a rhythm. I know I kind of was playing out a certain rhythm for the first like 7 years of my marriage. And I realized like, this doesn't fit for me. And I just knew it just didn't fit my soul, my body. Yeah. And that's what started a process of unraveling for us to then rediscover, oh, this is actually what I want. This is actually what I want.
And the thing is like, do not be ashamed and do not be afraid that conversation needs to happen every day.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things after we sit with Rob Hay and we clear out the energy, we sit there and it's almost like a habit now. We don't even realize we do it anymore, but we say, hey, is there anything you need to talk about? Is there anything that's like coming up? Me and Daniel had a practice for a very long time when we first opened our marriage before I was committed to 2 women. That like every night I would ask her, like, is there any change to our agreement?
Yeah.
because people think that you got to go down the list, right? Like, okay, is there any change with the kids? Are we changing anything? We're going to do this. What about the business? How, like, and it's like, no, you can just have like a blanket statement. Like, is there any change to anything that we've agreed upon?
Yeah.
It's like, no, I still feel really good about everything.
Yeah.
And it's like clean.
I mean, that's like getting married every night.
Literally.
In a positive way, right? It's a beautiful ritual that you are sitting down and you're consciously opening yourself up to like, hey, like the way you handled this could have been something that you didn't match.
Tomorrow's a new day. We joke about it every night. We're like, have a good death.
Yeah.
Every night, closing your eyes and going to sleep is death.
Mm.
Every morning is rebirth. And every morning is a birth of a new moment, a new time, a new experience, new everything.
Yeah.
And we get to create what that looks like every day.
Yeah.
And so, there's like experiences based on yesterday, but we have no attachment to them. Because like if we wake up tomorrow and we're like, fuck, man, you know what sounds really fun today? We should like, let's go to the archery range and like spend 3 hours on, be like, yeah, that fucking sounds dope.
Yeah.
That's not what we've done in our past experience. I'm using this as an example, but we shoot bows quite a bit. But anything that comes out of anybody's mouth that none of us have ever experienced before, we're like, yeah, fuck it, let's do it.
Yeah.
Or like, that doesn't feel good to me today. Can we try to figure out like another time to like do that? But like, they know that everything, no matter what, is like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. It's like, well, fuck, how can I, like, that doesn't resonate with me, but I love that for you. Like, how can we support you to get you to do that?
So, so that's like the question is, because I got 3 kids and they all have just certain want. And like, I know the dynamic of that. It's like you sort of compromise on like one thing and you almost have to like announce.
Yeah, we try not to compromise on anything.
Okay.
Because the thing is, compromise is like a breeding ground for resentment.
Ooh, okay. How do you resolve conflict? And,
sometimes it's okay to disagree.
Okay.
It's okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
Mm.
I'll give you a perfect example. This is gonna be funny. Maria's gonna start like smiling at me about this one. She had this idea of what a baby shower is.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not going to a baby shower. That's like, and maybe this is old school programming or some other shit that I'm like very aware of.
Yeah.
And I was like, normally that's like, all the women love that thing. Like all y'all get together, you exchange all the gifts and stuff, and you do the thing, and all the guys go fly fishing or something. I don't know what the fuck we do. Something. Yeah. And I was like kind of half joking about, but I was kind of half serious, like kind of filling out, like I think we were both filling out each other to see where they're at.
Yeah.
And it was like, and I go, that just doesn't really like resonate with me to have like this big like idea gathering around like some certain thing, and then like adults are like putting on adult diapers on each other and this whatever they do at baby showers, because I've heard of like these weird silly things, and I was just like poking fun at her at this point. So I was probably being a little bit of a dick, but not really. And she was like, well, there's got to be like some kind of compromise or something. And then this is when it first kind of like came up, and I go, well, I said, the thing about compromise is that what resonates with me is that I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And what resonates with you is you want me to do it.
Yeah.
So the only compromise is that I have to do it to some regard, which is a complete betrayal of what resonates with me.
Right. So, okay. So I like that thought. I just want to challenge it because I want to understand.
Yes, challenge it for sure. I got challenged, so I'm ready.
Yeah, for sure.
Look at she's still
which is the understanding, right? Like, I'll give an example. Like, what you're describing is authentic expression, right? Like, in your authentic expression, you want to go fly fishing, and Maria wants to have a baby shower with you there,
with me there,
and other men, maybe potentially. I don't know.
I don't know.
The point being is, we have inherent. There is boundary, right? Like boundary is set in a container of a relationship. This is my understanding. It's sort of like having a physical body. Like my skin is a boundary. Like I have to have a boundary in order for
to prevent like
to prevent like
toxic things,
toxins and disease and viruses and bacteria, right? Well, how does one not compromise, but also is in authentic expression, and also there might be, let's say, boundary around, well, like my boundary is my husband or my man or my partner supports me, right? Like how does that show up?
Yeah. And so for me, it's like, I sort of ask like a funny question. It's sort of like, is this a hill I'm willing to die on? Which means I don't really value it that much anyways.
Yeah.
So this is just my ego playing fucking stupid games.
Yeah.
And so I just said to her, I said, well, why don't we just like do what we normally do? Have all our friends over and we'll cook dinner and we'll like hang out. And if some people want to bring some gifts and shit and you guys want to do like some games or something, like whatever.
Yeah.
But what doesn't resonate with me is like participating in like this, like whatever.
Yeah.
But it's not something I'm willing to like die for.
Yeah.
So I have to ask myself, like, well, is this really like
it's like a low priority?
Yeah, and it's okay to like sort of look at some of those things, but there are some things where I've sat there and I was like, I'm not compromising on this.
Yeah.
On this thing.
Yeah.
I value this way too much.
Yeah.
This is something that resonates with me at a specific level, and I'm going to choose it 100% of the time.
Yeah.
You can be upset about it and disagree with my decision all you want.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay with you disagreeing with it.
Yeah.
For some reason, we've been programmed that like to disagree with someone is like, for some reason, it's like we can't sit on the same couch together anymore. And it's like, I'll tell you what's going to happen even with those disagreements most of the time. Sometimes we don't, but for the most part, we're going to come together at night. We're going to sit in rapé. We're going to set our intentions.
Yeah.
We're going to make sure that we clear the air on everything. We're going to connect in that sacred space. We're going to die.
Yeah.
And we're going to birth a new day.
Yeah. I love that. And in fact, I think what you just described is not only beautiful for what you have, but I think is necessary for healthy relationships, which is it's like you're setting the stage, like, let's clear the slate. Let's take all the shit that we're carrying from the day or from this interaction, whether it's two partners or one, like three partners or whatever. And you're allowing yourself to clear the air and step in sacred union, right? And setting an intention and moving forward. I think that's so vital.
Yeah, one of the things that we've been very intentional on, and it's something that we've been talking about lately because we found ourselves doing it unconsciously and consciously, is that we take love away because we're upset.
Yeah.
Or we disagree.
Yeah. I'm gonna, yeah.
And we just take the love away. We're like, no, I'm not going to fucking hug you. I'm not going to cuddle you. I'm upset.
Yeah.
Like, what? You can cuddle and be upset.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that? It'll help move that energy.
I will
honestly.
raise my hand and say that I do that.
We all do it.
We all do. Yeah.
We all do.
Like,
yeah.
And I get it too. And it's
it is such a triggering thing when she's like, "You're taking love away." I'm like,
yeah,
true.
Yeah.
Stop pointing out my flaws.
You're right.
But I'll tell you, like, here was the compromise.
Yeah.
I go, hey, what's hilarious to me now, because then it kind of got funny to me. And then she got mad that it was like kind of funny to me because it seemed like I was making fun of her emotions, which I wasn't trying to do.
Yeah.
What really was funny to me is that we were arguing about a thing that we didn't have any data on. It wasn't even a real moment, and it's at least 2 years away. I was like, we brought a disagreement drama thing around an idea of an expectation of something that we don't even know yet.
Right.
Into the current now.
Yeah.
Which is one of the things that if I do get rustled and riled up about things, it's stealing moments from the current now. I do not like it. I just don't. I don't want to be in the past and I don't want to be in the future. I want to be right here. And there is a sort of like the infinity loop, right? In the infinity loop, the now is where the cross section is.
Yeah.
The left side of the infinity loop is the record of the past.
Yep.
And then the right side of the infinity loop is the potential of the future. But it's moving so fast, it's creating the current now. But your power of your mind and your thought and your intentions can get trapped in the potential of the future and slow it down. Now you're not in the now.
Yeah.
So there's sort of a process of like, that's potential of future, dope. Based on my past experiences, I'm here.
Yeah.
You're starting to make these, like, if you're going to sort of like touch on what enlightenment is, it's that.
Yeah.
It's knowing it's all of it.
Yeah.
And like right here, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, based on the potential and based on what happened in the past, this is what's happening right now.
Yeah.
Cool. I can be with that.
Yeah. You just allow yourself just to be in that. I love that. So let me come back to the partnership. Do you have any other rituals that you and your partners do that is like kind of a no-brainer? Like you shared a couple, which I think were incredible, around clearing and like conflict resolution, perfect example, like.
Yeah. These concepts that, like, we've read like nonviolent communication and talked about a lot of these things. And I think what's fascinating about the human condition is like every relationship is so unique.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's some tools and stuff that like kind of work, but to be like black and white on so many things, we have like some of those things I talked about are more or less every day. Throughout the day, we check on each other. There's specific verbiage and words that we use, which is like, I've been using, because I used to ask this a lot, is there anything I can do for you? All the time.
That's a good,
4 or 5 times a day.
Husbandy.
Yeah, anything I can do for you.
Yeah.
And then she can say something and I can be like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. That's okay.
Yeah.
But you got to be okay with being like, sorry, babe, I don't have the bandwidth for that one right now.
Yeah.
You got to like know yourself enough to where like,
to have the boundary.
am I being a lazy piece of shit, or do I really just don't have the bandwidth for that?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's a hairline thing that you need to define for yourself.
Yeah.
What I've started doing instead is asking, how can I support you today? Or how can I support you right now? Because doing something for someone it sets the table that like, I got to fucking vacuum the floor. I got to clean the house, or I got to be whatever.
Yeah, like you have to do something, like be something physical.
How can I support you right now is like, man, you know what you could do to support me? Just like come sit next to me and just like, just be with me and just listen to me talk about whatever.
I like that.
Like, okay. I don't even have to do anything. I'm just supporting.
Yeah.
And that's a different energy. And like, you'll be surprised what that does for the masculine and the feminine.
Yeah.
Because even when they ask that like how can we support you?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, fuck, man. It really gives you a second to like, fuck, well, how do I actually... Men don't get a lot of support, and we don't ask for a lot of support because we're like...
And we don't allow ourselves.
We don't allow ourselves. But that's what I mean by like, we don't get is because we don't allow it. Yeah. But it's like, when they ask that, it's like, it gives you a second to be like, fuck, man, I don't know if anybody's ever asked me if I need support.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I think it just opens up a broader spectrum of like potential of like how you can show up for somebody.
I think that's so beautiful. And how I want to transition this is actually going into the conversation around masculine and feminine energies, because you understand energy very well. I understand energy. And when you're in a dynamic of, we're just, calling it male, female, heterosexual partnership, there is a stewardship, right? Like the man generally, holds the masculine container, and generally the female holds the feminine container. How does that show up for you with two females in your partnership?
It's no different.
Okay.
But I think that there's like an idea that like, I have to be something more than I am. Because I have two women.
Yeah.
The truth is I only have to be me.
Right.
That's why they love me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's not that doesn't come from like ego. It's like, no, like I fucking love me because I'm like, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm kind of dope. Like I like me.
Yeah.
Like I can be alone with me all the time.
Yeah.
And that's what they fell in love with. And so like, the masculine holding its boundaries and sort of standing its ground has such a negative connotation, because it's like, that sets the stage for you to continue to be that. And then also not let any of us get in any kind of unconscious behavior where they're manipulating you to be a specific thing.
Yeah.
And you're allowing yourself to be manipulated. And then you're also doing that to them.
Yeah.
Because those are things that you have to be very conscious about. It's like, when, especially in like a new relationship, right? It's like, I fucking really hate when you do X, Y, and Z. And it's like, okay, no, well, like step back and look at that. It's like, does any of that have anything to do with you?
Right.
If the answer is yes, there may be some pieces of it where it's like, hey, these other things, they fucking irritate the shit out of me. I'm letting you know, but it's mine.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm figuring it the fuck out, but I just want you to know that like I don't want you to stop doing what you're doing, but I'm just giving you a heads up that I'm fucking irritated by whatever that is, but it's mine.
Yeah.
And then there's things that you have to sort of find a way to be like, when you do these specific things, they're directed directly towards me.
Yeah.
And it's changing the way I want to experience my life. And then that's when you guys really need to come together and be like, fuck, okay, well shit, I didn't know that like my behavior around X, Y, and Z. And then it allows her a container to look at whatever caused those behaviors and patterns.
Yeah.
And then once she's looking at it honestly or whatever, then she can decide like, no, I'm fucking very aware of those things. And that's a part of my experience that I want to keep.
Yeah.
And I just need to honor that.
Yeah.
And she needs to feel safe to know that I'm going to honor that.
Yeah.
But until it's brought into awareness and talked about and looked at and questioned and analyzed and go, okay, yeah, no, that doesn't serve you or me or the relationship. So it's got to go.
Right.
Because there are going to be things that serve you that do not serve the relationship.
Yeah.
You got to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And they got to know that. And then you've got to know that like there's things about them that don't serve the relationship, but that doesn't matter. That's like her self-love for herself. That's her unconditional love. And if you take away the masculine energy that holds the container that keeps her safe to be able to keep that, you will lose that relationship eventually.
Yeah. So you're saying
fester.
Is you it's more important. I'm just trying to understand.
Mm-hmm.
You are saying it's more important for you to live in your authentic expression.
Yes.
In doing what you need to do,
Mm-hmm.
rather than, like you were saying, compromise,
Mm-hmm.
so as to sort of appease, to maybe create like
but you need to define where your values lie.
Yeah.
Because the ego will creep in and be like, oh, well, I'm just fucking authentic. I just do whatever the fuck I want.
Right.
And you just shit on everything, right?
Yeah.
Like that's where we talk about the toxic masculinity. You really got to look at the things that your soul's desire is, like what it really values, and go, okay, hey, like those other things, I actually really don't value those things. So I'm okay with, like, because ultimately, like, I fucking want to be around Maria. I fucking love being around her, dude. That's why I love her. She's amazing.
Yeah.
And like, if you're going to throw a dinner with like all of our closest friends and shit, where am I going to want to be?
Yeah.
Because that's part of the thing where it's like, yeah, the baby shower doesn't really resonate with me, right? But being with you does.
Yeah.
So am I really betraying myself?
Yeah.
Am I really being disingenuous or unauthentic? No.
So it sounds like it's not compromise, right? So like that's just like,
you just need to be honest about where you want to be, when you want to be there.
Yeah.
And be okay with that.
Right.
And it's like, I'm okay with saying that, like, I don't want to go to your best friend's wedding because I don't fucking like that chick, but I want to be with you. So I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Or maybe we could stay for like 10 minutes.
They're both true, right? This is one of the funny things, right? I had this conversation with somebody that I love dearly. People go, this is my truth, and it's an attachment to that one thing. What they're failing to recognize is that they have multiple truths. They're just only expressing one. Right. And so I'll use, since I have a multiple partner relationship.
Right.
This came up with, before I was committed to 2 women, this came up with a couple that we love dearly.
Yeah.
And it came up in a medicine ceremony, and we were all talking about it, and it was like a trigger for them. And she was thinking about wanting to be like kind of wild and free and maybe explore that. And he was like, no, there ain't no fucking way. And so their agreement was like, no, it's like off the table for us. But like, having that conversation and opening up and knowing that it exists within the relationship is okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to express it.
Yeah.
It's like, man, I've thought about being with other women. I don't need to express it, but I just want you to know that, like, that's in me. It's a part of me.
Yeah.
And so she came out of another medicine ceremony, and we were just sitting there hanging, and we were talking and stuff. And I said, well, let me ask you this. I'm free. I'm completely open. I can do whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah.
Danielle loves you. She knows I love you. Like, we have this connection, whatever. And I said, if you didn't have kids and you didn't have your family, and you didn't have all these external things, and you weren't married, and you didn't have, remove all your external factors, just you as the human, the divine being that you are right now, with me. Yeah. What are we doing? And she's like, no brainer. I go, yeah, of course. And I said, so it's true. This exists and you want it. It's okay.
Yeah.
But insert all your other truths.
Yeah.
You're not going to express this one. But you got to acknowledge it.
So how does this is so common for guys too. You know, it's like, it's like, oh, well, I have fantasy of having sex with any other woman. Yeah. Like I'd see this woman. Like, how do you navigate that if the guy is like, well, because it's part of our primal nature, you know, like we want to like kind of go.
But there's a shadow side to everything.
Correct. Yeah. No, I feel that.
This is where open relationships have such a to people.
Yeah.
Because they've been around certain types of those communities. And we talk about feeling vibration.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, man. And I'm not like trying to toot our own horn, but when people come around our love and what it is, and like how sacred that space is, like even when I was open and I was sharing that space with women, it was a deep exploration with me before I entered that space with anybody. Yeah. Because even when I was open and free to do whatever, most men would be like, oh my gosh, dude, I'm just going to get on Tinder and just like do my thing.
Right.
Like, no, I let women vibrate into my awareness as the universe provided it, because I opened to receive it.
Yeah.
And then I had very deep, long conversations with them to make sure that wasn't in a transactional shadow aspect. Yeah. I was like, this is a sacred thing for me. If we're going to enter into this space, this is what it's got to look like. This is how it's got to feel. And everybody I've ever been with, I still talk to them all the time. Yeah. We have a deep, loving relationship. We're still really good friends. They still like reach out to me. I still reach out to them for like if I need support or an ear to talk on. And, you know, we shared those moments and those experiences with us, and they were short contracts. Some were longer than others. Most of them were just one time.
Yeah.
And when I first opened up our marriage and went down this rabbit hole, I knew that it was in the shadow in my ego.
Yeah.
I just didn't have the language for it at first.
Yeah.
But what I was doing was I was going, okay, I want to do that. Originally, when we did it, it was like monogamy failed us. So like, fuck it, we'll try anything.
Yeah.
That's what it was, honestly. You know, Danielle had an affair and I was like, well, it's obviously you want to be with other men, right? So like, fuck it, let's explore this thing and just like, it's obviously going to bring up all kinds of shit and we'll see what happens. And it was one of the greatest teachers we ever had. And it sent us down that path of what unconditional love actually looks like and actually looking at another human in their divinity.
Yeah.
And wanting to experience their divinity, not their body.
Yeah.
It's two different things.
Yeah.
It took me a little bit to like work through because at first I was like, yeah, it feels good to be wanted by somebody else.
Yeah.
That feels good.
Yeah.
But that's the shadow and that's the ego.
Yeah.
Right. But I was very honest about it. I was like, yeah, that fucking feels good. But it's also, I'm exploring what my love is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is, man. I have no fucking clue.
Yeah.
They didn't know what their love was.
Yeah.
And so part of at least the beginning of it is like, and when I entered that space with people, it was like, man, I don't fucking know what this is.
Yeah.
I know that we have a connection and like, I think we should just explore it and just figure out what that was. And as I had more of those experiences, I started to see exactly where I was headed. It was like, oh man, it was like seeing the divinity and like bringing in the sacredness to like what this act was and being able to experience a human without any conditions.
Yeah.
And that started to like unfold a lot of things. And then I ended up meeting another woman and she wanted kids and she wanted all this stuff and da, 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 da. And as I started opening up these conversations with Danielle, she's like, absolutely not. And I was like, you see how we have conditions on how we'll experience our love with people?
Right.
I was like, we've already agreed that all of these things are off the table. And so my argument was like, well, no, I want to keep everything on the table and then be able to make the decision on what feels good with me when it's there.
How is that different than like, let's say a boundary? Right?
Yeah.
Like,
and this is where we have these conversations all the time because we've been trying to find the language on it. I make an argument to some degree that like boundaries and conditions have overlap.
Right.
Right? Like they're almost the same thing.
Yeah.
To some degree. And then agreements fall in that category as well, in the sense that like we're now two people are just coming in, and you can have agreements with yourself too.
Yeah.
These are the conditions that I'm going to agree upon.
Yeah.
And we're going to hold each other accountable to these things, and I'm going to hold myself accountable to this condition.
Yeah.
And so like people, I think it gives people warm and fuzzy when they're like, oh, it's just my boundary. It's like, that's a condition. It's okay.
Yeah.
Why does that have a negative connotation?
Yeah.
Everybody thinks that like you got to get to like unconditional love. And it's, again, it goes back to what we talked about. It's one of those contradictions where it's like, there's conditions to some degree in trying to experience unconditional love.
Right.
Because if not, then it would just be like, oh, I love every human. So if like a homosexual man came up to me and was like, hey, I want to like, you're fucking attractive, we should have sex. And maybe just like unconditionally, it's like, well, fuck, I love everything and everybody. So like, let's do it.
Right. So you're saying, yeah, like there's still boundary.
Yeah, I don't want to experience that. I don't think.
Right.
Well, you know what I'm saying? Like, what are we doing here? And so there's got to be this, like, it's very convoluted when you start talking about like, no, I have an unconditional love for myself and I get to choose how I get to experience that.
Yeah.
And it feels like conditions in a weird way, but it's just like, no, it's not a condition. I'm open to anything.
Yeah.
But like when it presents itself to me, I still have the autonomy based on my unconditional love for myself to say yes or no.
So
it's not a condition. It's just I don't want to do that right now.
It sounds like if you have, let's say, a condition or a boundary, you know, like boundary could be, again, overlap of condition. You have the ability to sit with, okay, I have this boundary. Let's say that boundary could just be monogamy, right? Like, I don't want you to have sex with other people. Right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, perfect. Now, where you're at now is you're able to see that and you're able to look in a 360 view and maybe even whole another quantum view of like, why do I have this boundary? What am I identifying with? What am I looking at? And you're able to sit with that and then either release that or say, no, I value this.
I value it. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're able to tune into that. I think that's, yeah.
But then there's gotta be, this is one of the conversations, because we've had obviously we're a trigger for a lot of people in a mirror, right?
Yeah.
They look at our expression of how a relationship looks and they're like, can't do that.
Yeah.
Or whatever the thing is. And I'm like, how do you know you've chose monogamy if you never questioned it?
Right. You don't know what it is unless you know what it's not.
And it's like, how many of us have actually just been truly monogamous?
Mm-hmm.
All of us have multiple partners.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like your serial monogamy at best. And so, but my question is like, when I started looking at that, I was like, your partner loves this other man.
Yeah.
She fucking loves him.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Right.
I got to a point where I just couldn't wrap my brain around it.
Yeah.
I was like, no, I find joy in the fact that she like loves another fucking human like that.
Yeah.
And now she gets to receive the same amount of love that I give to her, or whatever that means, from another. Now she's getting it times 2. If I really love somebody that much, I would find fucking joy in anything they do.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah.
But for some reason, right? Like there are a lot of people like, they're like, dude, I love watching my wife just like do whatever.
Yeah.
But she's not having sex with another man.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, what is that? For me, I had to ask that question. I was like, what the fuck is that? Like, why is this thing so taboo? If everything is sacred, and this is like the most sacred space on which you're really going to express your love with another human, and I'm going to deny this from somebody that I love?
Do you think it's because like this is such a vulnerable space? Like you were saying, like you're naked, you're physically, like emotionally, spiritually
I
there?
think for me, I think there's a part of, and I'm not saying that, I hate to generalize some things, but for the most part, what I've seen, our traumas and our insecurities won't allow it. They won't.
Yeah.
What if he's better? What if he's this? What if she leaves me for him? And, and it's like
loss of love.
Dude,
like
the thing is I had to go down the rabbit hole. I was like, man, she could meet somebody that she loves more than me.
Yeah.
And that may be her life partner.
Yeah.
If I truly loved her, like I say I do, you got to let her go.
Right.
You got to let her go.
Yeah.
Right. And it was like, it was a thing that was like, they're like, yeah, but like, that's going to hurt. I'm like, no, yeah, for sure.
So
100%.
I've gotten to that place where, and I've thought about this, and before my experience with certain ceremonies and plant medicines, I could not handle that, what you just described.
Yeah, no,
I just couldn't.
It's tough to even think about for some
right.
people. I know.
But now that I've experienced the absolute unconditional love that is the universe, that like puts out, and I felt that viscerally in my body. I recognize that if my wife came to me and she said, I love this man and I like love him dearly.
Yeah, and I want your support.
And I want your support. I'm like,
I love you. Okay. Yeah, how can I help?
It would hurt. It would hurt.
It would hurt. For sure.
It would for sure hurt.
And this is one of the things that like, you're going to get your fucking heart crushed in this process.
Yeah.
I fell deeply in love with another woman, and we had a beautiful week together, and we talked about like her coming out and visiting, and I was like, hey, I'm like, anything's on the table. We'll just like, we'll figure it out as it comes, like whatever. Yeah. Like I got to that point where it was like, no, like let's experience and run its course all the way until it's like gone or it's over.
Yeah.
And she got really scared and and then she ghosted me for like 8 months. And I was fucking destroyed, man.
Yeah.
The thought of never seeing her again just was like, just like any other relationship.
Yeah.
But the thing is it's like the equal and opposing force, right? Like I keep talking about that.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, man, you want to experience love at like a level that's like the unconditional at like that level.
Yeah.
You got to know that the fucking rock bottom is deep.
Absolutely.
It's deep.
And it continues.
And the thing is like the more intensity that you'll experience unconditional love, I use it as like a scale, right? It's like the love that I'm willing to experience is 100.
Yeah.
That means the pain that I'm willing to experience is the 0, right? My average medium experience is 50, right? If I then choose to like uncover more aspects of love, I may get to 1,000.
To expand the scale.
Yeah, but that means that my 0 is now a new low bottom.
Yeah.
Right? But my average medium experience of my daily experience of my in and out is 500 now instead of 50.
Yeah.
I've multiplied it tenfold. There becomes a point when you hit a specific vibration that you become okay with all of it.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, the 0 is as low as it gets.
Yeah. Or the negative 500.
And it fucking hurts.
0 is the middle, yeah.
But it's not debilitating anymore.
Yeah.
It's just like, you're almost laughing and smiling at it. You can, like me, Maria, and Danielle, we've been in ceremonies where we've been in the deepest, darkest shadow work of our shit.
Yeah.
And you'll hear us over there just fucking laughing.
Yeah.
We're like, oh my gosh, dude, I'm a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
Like laughing about our shit. It's like everything almost becomes a part of the cosmic joke. You're like, you're so aware of all of it. You're like, oh my gosh, like the zero is actually an illusion.
Yeah.
The only thing that actually really exists is there is no fucking scale. It's literally just one big giant circle of everything in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're just floating in the middle of it.
And because we live in a relative, I guess, existence right now, we have to experience the not, right? In order to experience the yes or the.
And what happens for a lot of people is they get hurt by love, their definition of love.
Yep.
And then they close themselves off from receiving anything more than this wedge.
Yeah.
Instead of the full circle.
Yeah.
And then they wonder,
hurts,
well, and then they wonder why they're suffering. And because if it's just relationship based, the moment you create a wedge on what you're willing to receive as love, it's energy, right?
Yeah.
That will go the same for your work. That will go the same for your hobbies. That will go, you'll only experience them at the level in which you're willing to receive any type of love anywhere. And so all of it will be limited. And then you can't figure out why the fuck everything feels numb.
Yeah. And then you'll still have the symptom of anxiety, depression, and you'll still be numb.
Jim Carrey said this. Depression and anxiety is nothing more than your body going, I don't want to fucking play this character anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
And you have that choice. I talked about this where like there was when all of this shit happened for me, like my first dark night of the soul, I guess.
Yeah.
It was like walking into a bathroom with a mirror and turning the light on. And for, I don't know, the 35 years leading up to that, when the light got turned on, I was like, nope. And I just turned the light back off and just fucking left.
Yeah.
I didn't want to look at none of it.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
Yeah.
I didn't like what I saw.
Yeah.
And then I acted like it wasn't there. So when it finally hit me, I fucking turned the light on and I fucking looked deep at myself and was like, oh man, I don't like any of this.
Yeah.
And that process was like all that, like just numbness and bottled up emotions and all that anger and all that shit. I had to feel it and work it and express it somewhere.
Yeah.
And
that's the path.
It was part of my deep work coming out of Peru this last time. Was like there was a lot of sadness that was manifesting as anger as a child. And so one of the plants we're working with brings up like childhood traumas and stuff. And like everything was irritating me. You couldn't fucking say, hey, you want to go to the grocery store with me without me taking, it's like some kind of slight to it. Like, why'd you say it like that? You know what I mean? Like everything, I was just like, oh my gosh, dude, quit fucking talking. It got to a point where like I couldn't even trust myself. And you get like, Maria's over there, she keeps like looking at me like every so often because I'd be like, I'm fucking leaving.
Yeah.
Because like it's not this. It's like I don't know what the fuck to do.
Yeah.
Literally, and I don't know what's gonna come out of my mouth. I don't trust anything that's happening right now. I just need to feel this frustration, this anger, this annoyance. And as I continued to sit with it, it was just like, it was really deep sadness as a child for not being supported to do what the fuck I wanted to do as a kid. That was it. That was it. It was that simple.
When those emotions come forward for you, do you have a specific practice that you like to do? Or do you just sit with it?
Yeah, I do a lot of stillness. And lately, what I've realized is that I had a bit of a codependency where I was leaning on the people around me. And I was taking a lot of that aggression out on them around me, but it was being expressed.
Yeah.
But not in the most healthy way, because it's like now you're involving it's at the expense of someone else.
Yeah.
So, and it's been a tool that we've been sort of like, we're okay with, but we're not okay with, because it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel bad. It's just kind of like this neutral thing.
Yeah.
But I take space and I go silent, completely silent.
Yeah.
And I sit by myself. I don't fucking talk about anything. And people were like, you gotta talk about your things and stuff. And I'm like, well, sometimes energetic emotions are just things that you're just feeling.
Yeah.
And like, I'll put words to them from like typing.
Yeah.
I'll journal them. So they're like, the words are being put out to the universe. Rape is another medicine that I sit with. But for me, it's a ton of meditation and sitting with my guides and just like having conversations with them. Yeah. And it's like, hey man, this is how, avoidance of specific emotions that you never created honesty around.
Yeah.
It's like you were just an angry little boy because like nothing went your way.
Yeah.
The reality was I was just really sad because I wasn't supported for who I was. It's like they could look like the same thing.
Yeah.
And so all of that stagnant sadness that was sort of suppressed, and then the way that anger was manifesting, it was like, and then I was even like suppressing that, you know, and then like in private, I would like, you know, punch the door of my fucking truck or something and like break my knuckles or like, you know how like we just, the unhealthy ways that we'd like express anger.
Yeah.
And really seeing that kind of shit and really looking at like when things aren't going my way, how I like kind of throw a little fit like we all do it. And it was like I could see myself, I was witnessing myself just like do this shit, which was super fascinating because you're like watching yourself and like fully aware of it.
Yeah.
You're like, dude, you're throwing a fit like a little fucking kid. And you're like, yeah. So it's like the little kids talking back to you. It's like, yeah, but I'm fucking 4 years old. Like, what do you?
Yeah.
Like, what? Yeah. How would you want me to express this? Yeah. I'm like, I don't know. We're actually 41, dude. This isn't how like 41-year-olds express it. Like, what are you talking about? And so, yeah, for me, I create like a little internal dialogue. It's almost like there's a therapy around this where you create archetypes of characters within you.
Yeah. Was it?
And you have
family systems or?
Yeah, you have conversations with them.
IFS. I actually, that's literally what I do. I do the exact same thing. I put
effective as fuck.
Yeah. And then I literally have a conversation with them. And if it's the 4-year-old, it's as if I sit them down in front of me and I'm like, what do you want? Like, what are you looking for?
Yeah. Like, what the fuck?
Exactly. Like I want these things. Like I want love. I want support. It's like, all right, I will give that to you right now. I will surrender to you. And then it integrates into me.
Yeah. And then you got to try to figure out how to love it. And I think that's that's one of the fascinating things, because then the process of loving those aspects you didn't like about that little kid is like, you know, forgiveness, you know, it's like, well, how do you forgive, you know, a little kid that didn't know, even though you're like aggravated with them? And it's like, well, you got to create a level of understanding of what the fuck they were actually going through at that time. And then, and realizing it was you and being honest with yourself around that experience. Yeah. Because we lie to ourselves about all of it. It's like, no, man, it wasn't that bad. Yeah. Childhood was like fine, dude. Just like man the fuck up. Yeah. It's like, no, dude, I didn't like it. Yeah. I didn't fucking enjoy that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like,
there's times where you wanted to be free and you couldn't be.
Yeah, and then so like you're understanding this kid is like, well, the understanding is that like he's frustrated because of like the very thing that you've been working for as an adult. Yeah. I want freedom and sovereignty to be me. Yeah. Always.
Absolutely.
And then the people that I choose to be in relationships with, I want them to accept that, support it, and celebrate it. Yeah. Yeah. And ultimately, that's where I was talking about. I touched on it a little bit where it's like, we always end up there. Yeah. Where we're working towards is having our initial response. That we're working towards like anything that they're doing. Yeah. Is like, oh, fuck, how can I support you in that? Yeah. Fuck yeah, I like that. Yeah. Not like, why the fuck did you do that? Like, what the fuck? And then it's like, you got to have this, you know, all these different levels of understanding why they made a decision instead of just like, support the, like, I don't know, because I wanted to.
That is
what if that was it? What if it's just because I wanted to? I didn't have any other reasoning.
Yeah. What you're just describing is like the pro level, right? Like that's like mastery. Like to be able to do that. I even caught myself last night. My wife was irritated with me. And I'll be honest, I completely forgot about the detail, but I remember me being irritated with her because of her irritation.
Yeah, being irritated. Yeah.
And then actually it being more of a problem because I was withholding. I did exactly what you're describing. I was withholding love, and then it was like,
well, and it's funny because then it's like this like vicious cycle where like you're mad because she's mad. Yeah. And then you're mad that you're getting mad that you were getting mad that she was mad. And it's like this, that's what I do. I'm like, why are you getting so fucking mad at this thing? Yeah. And it's like, well, I'm fucking pissed because she's mad at me. Yeah. And it's like, now I'm getting even more mad that I got mad because I got mad that she was mad. And I'm like, oh my God, dude.
That's a lot of madness.
This is the shit that like goes on. This is some of the shit that goes on in my head. I'm like, dude, you're like a psychopath right now. That's like that's insane that like you got that mad over
so good.
That thing. It's like I wasn't even that mad initially, but then I just got mad that I got mad.
Yeah.
It's like some weird loop that I get caught in.
With that. Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna it's same gears, but I'm gonna kind of like kind of go a direction. One of the things that I noticed when I really helped my relationship evolve with my wife was when I actually worked on my feminine structures. Yeah. Then I worked on the little girl inside me, or I worked on the wild woman, or these archetypes that we talk about. Have you done work on your feminine structures?
It's very important. I think in men's work and even in women's work, it's the opposing, because I talked about earlier, I was like, it's very important before you enter in any of those spaces that the masculine and feminine energy in you is in balance. And I don't even like to use the word balance. I like to use the word harmony.
Yeah.
Because harmony creates a structure of like, sometimes the masculine outweighs the feminine.
Yeah.
Sometimes the feminine outweighs the masculine.
Yeah.
And it's moving. It's in harmony with itself instead of like, nope, the masculine is only at this level and the feminine's got to be at this level and they always stay there.
Yeah.
It's like, that's unhealthy. You're going to find yourself at odds because you're going to need masculine structure.
Yeah.
In a specific moment and situation, but you're too rigid to like let go of the fucking thing and you're going to find yourself in trouble.
Yeah. I noticed that with myself where once I allowed for the feminine structures to come online, the archetypes and just working with these energies, I didn't feel like I had to be so masculine all the time.
Yeah.
Right. Like I was like, when I first met you, it was like all about like being a man and like, like,
men's work, man.
Men's work, men's man. Yeah. I'm going to be a
rites
man.
of passage. And we need to,
and I still believe
which is still important.
Yeah.
Still important.
Super important. But what I recognize is, when I can allow for the feminine structures to move through me and me be moved by them. There was a moment I was alone, and these are always like solo moments, which is so funny, but I'm happy to talk about it, which is, it felt like this wild woman needed a rage. And I fucking just like was throwing my hands and like just moving my body and like imagining like I was this just enraged feminine that was moving through me and it just needed to move through me. And I just allowed it to go. And then
the feminine's wild as fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's one of the most beautiful aspects of the feminine. And it's one of the things that we suppress.
Yeah.
It drives me fucking, it's one of, I try not to let it bother me, but like when I see women specifically, like their wild nature.
Yeah.
Not feeling, cause the two energies simply fall down into two things. Like the feminine is flow and the masculine is safety.
Yeah. So
whatever those things that fall under the category of safety, and whatever those things allow flow, and it's well, they go with each other, and it's like the masculine is the riverbanks and the feminine is the river. And when it's like one of the saddest things to me, and I think it's not necessarily that I'm like frustrated, but it is a thing that's sad to me when I see the woman that's just lost her wildness. It's just like that, like wildness is like what sparks the creativity in men.
Yeah. To
like innovate and create, and like they just see fucking uncontrolled, it's like this controlled chaos like in front of them, and they're like, but it just does something inside of you that just like sparks this level of creativity that you can't find anywhere else. You can't.
And it's highly attractive.
The wild feminine is like where it's at.
Yeah.
And so I think that like it was going back to like some of that conversation where, since we're on the topic of masculine and feminine, it's like the way I look at it is it's like in a man specifically, in the women it's a little bit different because they have the womb, but same concept. It's like the ego, if you really look at like the way things look, the ego is actually the masculine. Your heart is the feminine. And so the way I treat those two energies, the heart is the architect and the ego is the builder.
Okay.
The ego executes on the heart's desire, on the heart's design.
Yeah.
The feminine's design, the feminine's creativity, the flow of life.
Yeah.
The masculine puts it in creation. It gives it the structures in order for it to manifest.
Yeah.
And so if you look at those energies in its simplistic form like that, it's like if your heart is designing your life, and you're allowing the masculine energy to create, to execute on that design, you'll never go wrong. They'll always be in harmony with each other.
Yeah.
When you can touch in with your heart and you have a masculine energy that is safe, and really the masculine energy is so simple.
Yeah.
You just let her do whatever the fuck she wants.
Yeah.
It sounds like such a wild concept, but it's like, no, you let them do whatever they want.
Right.
Yeah. And you have conversations around like, hey, I don't know if that's serving you or that's not serving you. You create some honesty. But like, if you just hold a space for them to say and be and do whatever the fuck they want, you have crushed the masculine.
So that then brings it back to the conversation we were having earlier about the baby shower, right?
Yeah.
Where it was like, all right, you let them do whatever they want, but like, what if it doesn't align with your authentic expression? How does that
It's if, as long as it has only thing to do with them, do that.
Yeah.
I may not experience it with you. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And so that's like some of the things. So like, it's one of the conversations, like with Maria, for instance, like me and Maria are closed to other partners.
Yeah.
And Danielle's still open to other partners. And Maria's like, no, I just want to work on this relationship and And it's like, she's like, I'm not closing that off to any other possibilities to where I may be open to other relationships in the future. But as of right now, like, no,
Yeah.
And I said, well, consider that you've never had a masculine that was safe enough for you to explore that within yourself. So you don't even know if it exists.
Right.
It may not.
Yeah.
But to wake up that wild nature in her, she's got to feel safe to do so. So if any other man that she's ever been with before was like dropping little hints of like, I'm not fucking good with that and that's not okay and it'll be suppressed within her unconsciously. They won't even know. So a lot of the times there's aspects about themselves that they didn't even know has been buried deep in their subconscious from an early age because they've never had anybody hold them safe enough or even ask them questions like, hey man, how would you actually do this thing if like, you didn't have any conditions on anything?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that most of them is going to be like, I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, man, we got work.
Yeah. To allow that expression, that flow.
Yeah.
I think that's beautiful. I think that's incredible.
Yeah.
And
that's also the work you got to do in yourself.
Yeah.
It's like, how can I create an essence within myself to where I feel safe?
Yeah.
To be and flow however the fuck I feel like.
Right.
Because
into your element.
They'll never feel it if you don't feel it in yourself.
Yeah.
They'll see the facade of this like false security that you're trying to provide.
Yeah. How do you tap into that nature to know that you are in a safe container for yourself?
Yeah, for me, it was, you've mentioned courage a bunch of times. Like you have to find the courage to face the things that scare you.
Yeah.
Because the only way you're going to bring harmony to those things is to experience the things that are for you and not for you. And the only way you're going to know that they're for or not is you do them.
Yeah.
And so like, trust me, one of the most terrifying things was like, we're talking about open marriage. It's such an easy fucking conversation to have this conversation around. But like, when we opened up our marriage, our first experience was with another couple. That was like, all four of us were fucking terrified, man. Like, we're fucking terrified because none of us had any idea what the fuck we were doing.
Yeah.
We're just like, I don't know, dude.
Yeah.
This could destroy our marriages. We have no idea.
Yeah.
And we were just like, fuck it.
Let's go.
Like, let's just leave with love and see what happens, man. And it was one of the most amazing weeks of our life. It was like, oh, fuck, that's what happens when you face fear? What the fuck?
Yeah.
It was such an important rep because those are the things where it's like, go paint your fucking toenails.
Yeah.
Like, fuck the guitar, play the ukulele. That's way more feminine than the guitar. Like, ride around in your neighborhood in your underwear on a longboard like a fucking 12-year-old little kid.
Yeah.
These are the things that I do that, like, don't make any sense whatsoever, then they just feel good to me.
Yeah.
I have no rhyme or reason for them.
Yeah. Well, it's in a way, it's like you're exploring the edge of what is considered the condition that is man.
Yes.
Right? Like the idea of that.
But that's the feminine.
Yeah.
Remove the condition so you can flow into whatever.
And you can enjoy. And again, it's scary.
But if you never flow, you'll never bring that energy in.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that because what you're describing is, okay, so like you're stepping into the feminine flow and that bridge is courage. Like to step across that. It's
for sure.
You're going to know you're in the right direction when you're going to step in through fear.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
and the courage is one of those cornerstones of the masculine energy.
Yeah.
Because once you realize how brave you are, you'll feel safe.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you have to step into the fear in order to create the bravery that creates that sense of safety within yourself. So it's like, fuck, I'm capable to like be whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
I feel safe in that now because I'm getting reps. You have to think of it like going to the gym. Nobody back squats 400 pounds the first day they go in the fucking gym.
Yeah.
No, you back squat 95 pounds for 3 months, and then you back squat 155 pounds for another 6 months, and then da-da-da-da-da-da. Yeah. And then you go into the test, and it's like, oh, shit, I got a lot of reps in this thing. Let me merge the two of these, and you go into a big, huge test of whatever that space looks like for you.
Yeah, in a different way.
And then you see that test right in front of you, and you're like, oh, I passed the fucking test.
Yeah.
But you gotta get the reps in.
You're literally regulating your nervous system to something new, to something, brand new.
Yeah.
In fact, like this podcast is even an example of that, right? Like I was afraid, right?
Yeah.
Like my fear was like an expression to show up, to tell stories about my personal life and to be like, what are people going to think of me?
Here's a weird thing about regulating the nervous system. It requires experience.
Yeah. You got to go to it.
You have to.
You got to keep pushing that edge.
The no energy dies. It only transforms.
Yeah.
And in order for things to transform within you, energies, which are the causing the dysresonance and it manifests in depression and whatever your thing is.
Yeah.
the only way to regulate those things is to move those energies.
Yeah.
So the only way to move those energies is experience and manifesting and creating moments that transmute and transform one energy into something else.
Yeah. Through reps.
It's just the way it works.
Just reps.
Yeah, there's no other way around it.
I love this. I know your loves are here.
Yeah, I got both of them here.
And it's dinner time. So I'm going to cut us off.
Yeah, man.
We had an incredible session.
Well, thank you so
much. Where can the people find you?
Oh,
You
man.
mentioned it in the last one, but you can say it again.
Yeah, the Instagram will be the easiest place. So at the Hive Healing is our retreat center. And then my personal Instagram is at Sacred Gunfighter.
All right, guys.
So, and I'm you can DM me, you can reach out to me, and I love conversations and I love discovery calls with people. And this is our work, is to create a safe space for people to come in and remember. And that's it.
To heal and to remember and to go to that unconditional love.
Yeah.
I love that, brother. Well, guys, I love you, and I love you,
love
David,
you, my friend.
And your partners, I love you.
I like them too.
They're okay. All right. All right, guys. We'll see you guys in the next show. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Unbreakable Man podcast. If you found this episode valuable, then go ahead and leave a 5-star review explaining how this podcast has helped you so more people can find it. If you want to be a part of the Brotherhood, then click the link in the description below. You can also check out the Unbreakable Man experience if you're ready to face a deeper challenge and change your life for the better in just 3 days. All right, guys. Thanks again for listening. I appreciate you. And as always, stay unbreakable.